And welcome to this webinar where we're going to go through advanced accounting integration in Fresh Projects. Just to let you know, there is another webinar which deals with the straightforward integration where you have a one-to-one relationship between your practice and your accounting system. But this webinar specifically is about how do we do more advanced integration where you may have multiple books that you're keeping in your accounting if you've got multiple entities and you want to integrate those through to Fresh Projects. Okay, so to start off, we're just going to go through some concepts, high-level concepts about how the information flows between Fresh Projects and your accounting package. So to start off with, the important bit to know is that obviously that you're going to have your users and they will be capturing their personal expense claims into Fresh Projects. The reason we like to do it this way is because we obviously want to allocate specific expenses against specific projects, because after all, the purpose of Fresh Projects is to be able to track project profitability. So we want to know exactly which project is incurring that expense. So we capture the expenses in Fresh Projects, and there's obviously the interface to do that. Then you may have a dedicated staff member, or you may allow all your staff members to do this depending on their permissions, who would capture project expenses again into Fresh Projects. These are things like sub-consultants or plots or prints. And again, we want to make sure that we can allocate these to specific projects, and so we can track the project profitability of each project in turn. Then you would typically have in your practice, and particularly if you're looking at this video, you are more likely to be a larger practice because you're looking at multiple legal entities. So you're going to have a financial manager or an accountant. And again, this in terms of invoices that need to get raised, we would suggest that these get created initially in Fresh Projects. So that again, we can know exactly which project has generated income. And the other benefit of doing it in Fresh Projects is you have a lot more control over how exactly your invoice looks in terms of the layouts, which a lot of people quite like that feature. So you'd have one person or a team of people generating invoices on a monthly basis. Again, these get captured in Fresh Projects. The invoice number gets created in Fresh Projects. And then finally, the final step, which we're going to go through today, is showing you how all this information that you've captured in Fresh Projects, the invoicing, the expenses, gets pushed through to your various legal entities inside either Sage or Xero or whatever other accounting package you're using. The reason we like to stick with the cloud-based accounting packages like Sage and Xero is that we can have our servers talking to their servers seamlessly, and with a few clicks the information goes across and you don't have to deal with importing and exporting of CSV files and formats going wrong and all the pain that goes with that. Okay, so let's go through it now. So this is going to be an advanced topic. So if you listen to this, you can call yourself a power user of Fresh Projects. So we're going to go through it, and there's quite a lot to take in, but feel free to pause the video at any time and go back and try and understand how it all works. Okay, so for today's demo, what we're going to do is we're going to go through capturing an invoice and then capturing some expenses and pushing those through to Sage and showing you how that actually appears. We're going to have two different projects that we're going to do this on to show the different legal entities. So the first project we're going to be dealing with is going to be the White House project, and that is going to be linked to our Johannesburg office. So if I actually find the White House in this list, there he is at the bottom. I'm going to have a look at him. You can see that he has been linked to the Johannesburg office. Then the second project that I'm going to look at, and I'll find it through all projects this time, is the Palace of Versailles, and this has been linked to our Cape Town office. So what we want to get to at the end of this is to make sure that all invoices raised in Fresh Projects against the White House project get posted through to the set of books that belong to the Johannesburg office, and all invoices and expenses raised against the Palace of Versailles will get pushed across to the Cape Town set of books in Sage. Okay, so the first thing we have to do when setting up invoicing is to make sure that you are linked through to the particular. I'm just going to quickly disconnect. I was connected, but I want to show you from the start. You want to link through to your particular accounting package. So in this case, I'm going to connect to Sage 1. I'm just going to copy my password and paste it in here and log in. So you only have to do this process once when you initially set up your account and link the two. But this will go through, and now the servers are talking to each other, and they have identified that in the Fresh Project side, you've actually got two different offices or tracking categories set up, Johannesburg and Cape Town. And on the Sage side, we've got two different companies or sets of books set up as well. So you could, if you wanted to, it's not the purpose of today's demo, is you could just push it all through to one set of books. So you could just say, I want to link it to just the Cape Town office, and off you go. I shouldn't have done that. Let me do it again. But what we really want to be doing today is to just copy the password again. Is we want to be able to map out different offices in Fresh Projects to different companies, as they're called in Sage. So the Johannesburg one tracking category in Fresh Projects, I'm going to link through to the Johannesburg set of books, and obviously the Cape Town one through to the Cape Town set of books. Obviously, you may have different names inside your Sage instance or your Xero instance for the different legal entities that you're dealing with, but you obviously would need to do whatever suits you. Okay, now that I've linked through to Sage 1, there's again just a few settings I have to set up once, and then I can forget about it. Firstly, you can decide what do you want the invoice line items to say. So when you actually generate an invoice, what bit of text you want to show against the different types of income that you can raise in Fresh Projects. So just to recap, in Fresh Projects, there are three types of income categories, if you want to call it that. So you've got your professional fees, which is the time, the fees that you're charging for actually performing your job. So that's what we call our lump sum fees. And that is typically if you've got a construction-based cost fee that's linked to construction costs, or you've just agreed a whole lump sum. Secondly, if you are raising invoices against actual hours that have been booked, and you can create the invoice based on the number of hours that have actually been booked, and you're using charge-out rates, that would be what we call a time-based charge, and you would have the choice to call it whatever you like on the invoice. And then finally, you also have the ability to add to your invoice expenses that are reimbursable. So if in Fresh Projects you've captured an expense, you've marked it as reimbursable, you can attach that to an invoice. And again, this is where you would set whatever text you want to show on the invoice when we generate it in Sage. The next step to be along would be you want to link the specific, when you're creating the invoice in Sage, what item, as Sage calls it, do you want to link that invoice to? So you can either search for the items that already exist in Sage 1. So this is actually now Fresh Projects is talking to your Sage 1 instance and finding all the items that are already created in there. Or you can go ahead and you can create your own items in here, and that will post it through to Sage and create that item in Sage as well. So for now, for the fees, I'm just going to link it to item 200. Time-based charge as well could stay with item 200, which is fees, and we've got reimbursable expenses linked to 300. So we've done that for our Johannesburg set of books. You would have to go through the same process again for your Cape Town set of books. So you need to link the specific item codes in Sage back to your Fresh Projects by just clicking on the button. Okay. Final option you can choose here is just whether or not you want, when you raise an invoice and post it through from Fresh Projects, do you want it to come through as draft, in which case it's not actually going to come through as a draft invoice in Sage? Or will it go straight through? If you mark it as printed, it'll actually mark it as processed, and it'll go through to the books. Most people like to keep the control in the accounting package. So typically you would mark it as draft. And then the accountant can make sure that everything is 100% right before actually uh, committing it to the books in Sage itself. Okay, so you set up your accounts once. Like I said, you only have to do that once and do the mappings once, because we're dealing with multiple offices and Fresh projects and multiple legal entities in Sage. This is where you have to do that mapping. Okay. Right. The next thing I need to do, again, is I'm gonna raise an invoice now on my two projects. I'm gonna raise one invoice on the White House and one invoice on the Palace of Versailles. And if we post these through, we should see that the two invoices go across to the two different sets of books. But in order to do that, I need to make sure that Fresh Projects knows which clients and which office, when it's posting across, the contacts in Fresh Projects belong to in Sage. So the next thing I'm going to go to is I'm going to go to Financials Contact Details. And I'm going to find the two clients that I'm going to be posting an invoice against. So I just need to double check this. So on my project for the White House, if I go to the White House, I just want to check which client I've actually set up. So I've got Ben Bernanke set up as a project client. I'm just going to double check. I've actually got a number. This is a very complicated project. We have different billing clients in this project as well. But just to show you that we can actually on one project invoice different clients. So we're going to stick with Ben Bernanke as our invoice client. So I just want to make sure he's linked to the correct clients in Sage 1. So if I go to my list of contacts in Fresh Projects, and I find Ben Bernanke in here, there's actually two Ben Bernankes, which makes it even more interesting, is you can see on the client detail, I can choose that he belongs to the Johannesburg office, and I can both link him to a contact in the Cape Town set of books and the Johannesburg set of books if I want to. So if I click in here, this will automatically talk through to Sage 1, and it's discovered that there is actually a Ben Bernanke already in Sage 1, and it says, okay, do I just want to update his details? Or if he didn't exist, I could search for a contact that was already existing in Sage 1 and just link it to that contact. So there's a number of different ways of how you can link it. I'm just going to update that, and you can now see that he's linked. The next thing I need to do is just set a specific tax rate for this particular client. So most clients would be your standard VAT rate, but obviously if you're dealing with international clients or some sort of special client where the tax rate is different, you could set that up in here as well. Okay. Just to avoid confusion later, I'm going to delete this bin so that we don't get confused later. While we're here, I'm going to do the same for the Palace of Versailles. So if I go to the Palace of Versailles, I just want to see, okay, the client here is Sharp Developments. So I'm going to go through to my contact details again. I'm going to find Sharp Developments, and I need to make sure that in this case they're linked to a client in the Cape Town office. So if I search through, now this is searching the database in the set of the instance on Sage, which is the Cape Town instance. And you can see that it hasn't actually found Sharp Development. So I can decide, yeah, I just want to add my client through to Sage. So if I click on that button, you'll see it's linked through to Sage. And again, I can choose my tax rate. I'm going to choose the standard rate again. Save that. So if I actually now go across to Sage, and just to make sure I'm looking at the right company in Sage, so I am in the Cape Town office, we should be able to see a list of customers, if we go there, that we now have Sharp Developments, and we do, you can see it here, has been added actually into my Sage instance with all the contact details and addresses and things like that will automatically get pushed through. Okay, so I've done all the background work now. So again, you'd only really do this once. As soon as you get a new customer, you'd set them up as a customer contact in Fresh Projects, and you would link them through to your accounting system. But once they're a customer and they've been linked, you wouldn't have to do that for the next invoice, etc., etc. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create the invoice. So there are, as you probably know, two different ways to create invoices in Fresh Projects, either on the monthly accounts tab, or there's a second option under the income forecast under projects. Today we're just going to focus on the monthly accounts. If you haven't seen monthly accounts before, basically this is a very simplified profit and loss or income statement. We've got a picture at the top showing your income versus your expense, and we've got a couple of tabs. The income is all your invoicing. You've got your salary costs, which is the translates the time sheet costs that are coming into your company, and then project costs, which we're going to go through later, which is your expense claims that we're going to be pushing through. Okay, so let's go through and create the invoice. So I just want to see we don't have any invoices already set up for the White House. In fact, we do. We've got the 80,000 Rand invoice set up for the White House, but just if you did want to create a new invoice, you can obviously do this by just typing it in at the bottom and saying create a new invoice for the White House. I'm not going to choose Peregrine. I'm going to choose Ben Bernanke. In this case, is the client that I want to invoice. If you recall, this project was particularly complicated because it had a number of different billing clients. I'm going to decide how much I want to invoice this client. So in this particular instance, I'm going to make it 50,000 Rand. I'm not going to go through the details of invoicing today. We're more focusing on how do we integrate. Okay, so I'm ready to actually generate the invoice now. I can choose my invoice date. I can choose what the format is of the invoice that gets generated in Fresh Projects. And I'm going to go ahead and generate the invoice. So this will actually allocate an invoice number. You can see invoice number 402. And once that gets generated in Fresh Projects, I can download it here and send it off to the client if I want to. Or I can post this through to Sage 1. So long as I've set up all the information correctly, so I've set up linked the clients and I've linked the project to the correct offices and the correct companies and contacts in Sage 1, and I've set up their tax rates, it'll give me this button. If that button doesn't appear, there will be a message there telling you what you need to do to make sure that you can post this. So it'll be a message something like, please link the client's tax rate, or please link the client to a contact in Sage 1. But anyway, if that's all linked, you get the button, you click on the button, and it'll say it is posted through to Sage 1. So that was the Johannesburg office, the White House project. So if I just in Sage quickly jump across to the Johannesburg office, and I go to customer transactions and I look for all the tax invoices that have been raised here, you will see invoice 402, which is the one I've just created for 50,000 Rand plus the VAT that got added, 57,000 Rand to Ben Bernanke, and this is now in your books. It hasn't been printed yet, so it's still draft. But if you're happy with what you see here as the accountant, you can either email this. So you've got two choices. You can email the invoice from Fresh Projects, or you can email the invoice from your accounting package, or you can just print it and that'll come to your accounts. Okay, so there's our first invoice generated and pushed through to Sage 1. What I'm going to do now is generate a second invoice, this time for the pallets of Versailles. So we actually had a draft invoice loaded in Fresh Projects here. So you can see I've actually got a couple of invoices uploaded here. So now let's do this one for 29,000 Rand. I'm going to generate the invoice. Again, I'm happy with the details. You can choose your invoice template. You can change the date. You can put notes on things like that. Once I'm happy, I can generate it. I've got invoice 403. I'm going to post that through to Sage 1. And now this will identify that this particular client and this particular project is linked to the Cape Town office. And if we go across to here, I'm still in the Johannesburg. So if I look at my invoices here, I shouldn't see invoice 402. Sorry, was it 402? 403. So you can see there is no invoice 403. But if I flick across to my Cape Town set of books and do the same thing and look at all the invoices in there, you will see that I now have invoice number 403 from Sharp Developments for 54,000 Rand has been posted through to here. Okay, so that is the invoicing side of things, which is the income side of your projects. And you can see just how easy with a single click you can push across your invoices through to Fresh Projects, through to your accounting project package from Fresh Projects. Okay, we're now going to go on to the next step, which is how to capture expenses and how to push those through to your accounting package. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure there's two types of expenses that we can push through, and we'll do one of them in each of the offices. The first type is if we're just doing, for example, a employee expense claim. This typically you wouldn't raise as supplier invoices, Sage calls it, or a bill as Xero calls it. You would just want to post this through as a journal entry. Okay, so we're going to do that first, and then the second one we'll do is actually raise a supplier invoice where we capture an invoice in Fresh Projects and push that through as a supplier invoice or a bill through to your accounting package. Okay, so let us first make sure that we've got the setup right. So if we go to financials and we go to expense types, obviously if you're an advanced user and you're listening to this, you've probably been dealing with expense types up until now. So this is where you can add new expense types and you can change their details. So if we look at our mileage type claim, so this is where we're capturing expenses from employees, and we are capturing them on a kilometer by kilometer basis. But the important bit is the bottom here is it says, how do you want to deal with this with Sage 1? So we want to post it as a journal entry. Okay, and we want to make sure that in here we can choose which accounts on Sage 1 we want to debit and credit. So obviously with the journal entry, you have to have a debit and a credit. So you can come in here and you can click link and you can actually choose which account you want to debit. So this is not what you would do in real life, obviously, but I might want to debit the advertising account and I'm going to credit the bank charges account. Again, nonsensical, but just to show you how easy it is to link the account. So that has actually done a lookup on Sage 1 and got a list of accounts out of the system and presented you with the options you want to do. You can also choose if tax applies to this particular expense type. So, for example, if it is fuel, do you use the old standard rate or the new standard rate of 15%? Or if it's tax exempt, you can set that to 0, etc. So we've set up just for the Cape Town office, but you could also do it for your other offices in terms of the books that you've got running in Sage. You could set up which accounts you want to debit and credit, so there could also be different ones in the different offices, and exactly which tax rate applies. Okay, so I've set that up for that type of expense type. I'm then going to go ahead and capture that. So that is what we would call, I just need to save this. We need to capture a personal expense. So I'm going to go ahead and on the Palace of Versailles, I'm going to capture, say for the landscape design, we did a bunch of travel, we did 500 kilometers, which is coming through at our rate of 4 Rand a kilometer, it's 2,000 Rand, including VAT, because that's the way the expense has been set up. And I'm going to go ahead and submit that. Expenses can only be posted through to Sage if they have been approved. So like everything in Fresh Projects, we don't really deal with them, whether it's timesheets or expenses, until that has been approved. So I'm just going to go ahead and approve this. I'm an approver in this particular demo account, but within your practice, you'd obviously have different people approving this. So here's the particular expense I've just captured, was 500 kilometers. I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And now when I go through to my monthly accounts, you will see that I have, under the project costs, you will have the item listed here for this particular month of 1,700 Rand, that's before tax, of the travel that was done on the Palace of Versailles. And if I want to post this expense now that it's been approved through to Sage, it's a simple matter of clicking on this button, and it'll come up with a confirmation to say, okay, you are traveling, the description is travel. I'm going to be debiting the advertising account, which is what I set up, even though it's nonsensical, and I'm going to be crediting the bank charges. Shows you what the tax rate is, what the amount inclusive, exclusive is, and what the date is. You can click post. And now if I come through, again, I'm in the Cape Town company in my Sage instance. And if I have a quick look at my accounts, and if I looked at the advertising, you will see I now have a journal entry that's been posted here. Description of travel. The person who it was for, Christopher Wren, that's who I was logged in as, how much the amount was, and the balance is. And equally, if I looked at the other account which we debited, you'd see the counter entry there. Okay, so that just shows a journal entry type expense, how easy it is to come across. And the final thing we're going to do today is show you how to deal with a supplier invoice type person. Okay, so for a supplier invoice, the thing we have to make sure is that each invoice that will get uploaded into the system will get allocated to a contact in Fresh Projects, and that contact will also exist in Sage. So in this case, I've got a supplier called Geotech Incorporated, and you can link it again to a particular contact or supplier inside Sage. It is already linked, but just to show you how this works, is you could either search for any particular supplier that already exists in Sage, or if you wanted to link it to somebody else, you could link it. Or you could just update the details that are already there. So if you updated, for example, the email address and phone number and telephone, those details will get pushed through to Sage 1 automatically when you click on the link. Okay, so that supplier Geotech is now linked through to a supplier in Sage 1. And we're going to go ahead and capture a project expense this time. So this is an expense that's incurred by the company. We're going to do it on the White House project because this is the project that we're doing in our Johannesburg office. We're going to say it's a sub-consultant cost, and the amount is 2,876 Rand. I'm going to submit that. I could actually have attached a proof of that invoice there. I'm going to go ahead and approve the expenses to make sure that I can actually post it, because I am the project manager in this particular case. So I clicked on the project expense approvals. And just wait for that to load. So here's my expense, the White House design development sub-consultant of 2,876 Rand. I'm happy with that expense. I'm going to submit it to say that I'm happy. And now when I go through to my monthly accounts, again, if I go to project costs, you will see that I have a White House sub-consultant expense listed here. By the way, if you don't see your expense listed here, or if it happened in a period other than the period that you're dealing with, you can always click on this button at the top here and go search for any approved expenses and pull them into this P&L, this month's P&L, and attach them to this month and then post them through to that particular account. Okay, so I'm ready to post this through to Sage 1. I click on the little button that says post here. I just need to say, because the expense was captured in Fresh Projects and we don't really capture the supplier name when we capture that expense, just at this point you need to say, okay, who is the supplier whose this invoice is linked to. So I'm going to choose Geotech, and it gives me the confirmation once again, what is the item code, who's the supplier in Sage, what the amounts are, and what the date. And if I click post on that, you will see I get a little indicator to say that it's been posted. And again, if I go across to my accounting package and I switch across to the correct set of books, you will then be able to see my suppliers. If I go to the list of all the invoices on my suppliers, I will then see supplier invoice number 3 for 3,000 Rand, so that's including the VAT. If I drill down into that specific item, you will see that I have the 2,876 plus the VAT, and that's the 3,000 that has been posted as a supplier invoice into your accounting package. Okay, so that's, like I said, probably one of the most advanced things you can be doing in Fresh Projects in terms of linking your accounting packages across multiple entities into multiple tracking categories and multiple suppliers and tax rates and all that sort of stuff. It is quite complex, but so is running a business which has got multiple legal entities and multiple sets of books. But as you can see from this demo, hopefully, is once you've set up your accounts properly and you've set up all the links, and you only have to do that once generally for each setup, it actually is really straightforward to get the information from Fresh Projects across into your books and be able to keep your accounting separate, and that remains a single source of truth in terms of the actual books and accounting for your practice. But at the same time, you get the power of having Fresh Projects sitting as an analytical layer on top of all your books and giving you that breakdown of your project profitability, your client profitability, allowing you to analyze income and costs across whatever your various legal entities are, and be able to slice and dice that according to sectors and regions and etc. etc. So hopefully that was useful to you. It's, like I say, is one of the more advanced things to do. And if you do have any questions on how this works, or if it's not working for you when you set it up, please do drop us a line and we will help you set it up and make sure that it's working for you. Thank you very much.